Hello, this is Brian Hamilton, the president of the Applied AI Association for Southern Washington and the Oregon region. I'm sitting here with my lovely wife, Adrienne Hamilton. We've been having a lot of interaction with our children lately related to artificial intelligence. And we've been noticing that our children are actually interacting with AI like they would be interacting with a human being. So we had a moment in time where one of our kids was in the vehicle and they were basically disclosing crazy amount of information to the AI tool set. And from that, we kind of said we have to meet as a family and talk about what's important from an artificial intelligence perspective from a parenting side of things. So we actually came up with the 10 golden rules as it relates to parenting and artificial intelligence. So we wanted to share some of these ideas with you as maybe other parents that are out there and kind of go back to the basics of what we did when we were growing up pre-artificial intelligence. Number one, we always used to tell our kids to enforce stranger danger awareness. It's kind of similar in artificial intelligence. We focus on teaching the implementation of AI, but also make sure that the kids and our kids do not just accept the output of the AI as fact, that they actually question the artificial intelligence outputs. Teaching your children also to question the answers that come from the AI and be able to put it in a framework so it accelerates their thinking. So at first, query should never be the absolute truth. We also want to think about educating them on the biases that come out of AI so they can question the answers from artificial intelligence. So the first one is to remain human while interfacing with AI.
So our children are 17, 14, and 11 years old. So we've been at this parenting thing for a little while now. And Brian's really kind of the tech geek in the family, and I'm more back to the basics of parenting. So a lot of this comes down to, what are the basic rules and fundamentals in parenting? So safety first, right? Safety first and critical thinking are really the two things that we need to guide our children with. Our 11-year-old takes AI and thinks that it is the gospel. So anything that's output to him, he thinks it's absolute, factual, and the truth. Luckily, our 14 and 17-year-olds have a little bit more critical thinking skills. So I would really focus on, with your younger ones especially, is having those deep conversations that this information, it is super helpful and useful, but it is not always the absolute truth, and that they should be having conversations with their parents to delve into the topics a little deeper.
That's amazing. The second golden rule that we always said is do not isolate yourself. You probably all have seen our children isolating ourselves with their mobile phones. Now it's even more dangerous with AI if it's not understood. So the human-to-human interaction is key. We need to remind our kids and our students of life to think about how they support human-to-human interaction in the old kind of format. They need to be able to interact with other humans. So do not isolate yourself via artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and I would say if as the parent, you're making the observations, you're seeing how often are they interacting with AI versus, the old-fashioned real world. We think it's important. Teach your children, go out, get a job, go have the interviewing skills, the life skills, the face-to-face experiences. AI is really an enhancement in life, but without some of those fundamentals, it will be really difficult to succeed as the children get older.
The third one is to look to the future and think about jobs and basically live today for tomorrow. Since 60% of jobs today did not exist in the 1950s, so we need to prepare our future generations for the future of work and education. We need to focus the kids today to focus on the fundamentals of education. The skill sets, the reading, the math, the writing. I remember doing statistics as an MBA student and actually having to go through the blue books and do all the formulas and calculations. Today's world, it's so easy to get the outputs and you can add that critical layer of thinking on top of it. But you gotta have those transferable skills in math and reading and writing that give you the core decision making. So live today for the jobs of the future. And be able to get that baseline set of skill sets for your education and not give up on the fundamentals. Next would be to be cautious and secretive. Don't give away any personal information you wouldn't want printed on the front page of a website or newspaper. Public AI models can be trained on your inputs, so be careful of what you're sharing in terms of your private information. There's a new depth of sharing and feeling. We always talked about the deep state back in the day. It was the government listening. Well, today, every device is listening to us everywhere we go around the world. So teach your children to not just disclose every personal detail about your family or themselves that could put themselves in danger.
We also like to use the grandma test. If you wouldn't share this information with your grandparents and wouldn't feel comfortable, and if you think that they would raise some eyebrows, please do not share it with AAI.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is focusing on fitness. You have to put in the time to learn and form your thinking, and not just be lazy with the outputs. Do not outsource your thinking to AI. So do not automatically rely on things, but also make sure you're thinking before, during, and after the interactions with artificial intelligence. The key is to not outsource that thinking.
This is especially important. We're seeing it with our older children who are in high school. Our oldest, he's a junior, so he's starting the college application process. He's busy looking at scholarships and essay writing, and there's a ton of information out there. AI is super helpful in composing thoughts, coming up with, maybe some verbiage that you wouldn't necessarily use, but it's really important, especially for these young adults, teens, to know what they're kind of playing with. And there is very, very explicit instructions on a lot of things that they may become ineligible for if it's discovered that some of their ideas are being altered. So have that open dialogue and make sure they're aware of the consequences. There's a lot of positives, but they can kind of head into tricky territory pretty quickly.
The next one's tied to also having a new driver in our home as well. Citations are not points on your license. So I say that jokingly because we've had some interesting times with citations in our house recently. But the number one thing are citations are probably actually the most important part of the work. You've got to know where the information's coming from. And when you give the information, you got to be able to make sure you're citing it appropriately. You have to always look at the fact checking, the references, and actually get into the explanation of reasoning. The AI answer, even though it might be the right answer in the end product, but if it's not referenced the right way, it can become a form of plagiarism. So it absolutely need to have citation for your work and be aware of where all the information is coming from. The next one is related to getting dressed, going through 3 kids. I always just say, put on your own socks. Do not let AI influence who you are. Do not let the artificial intelligence engines and tool sets influence you away from your core and who you are as a person. Do you want anything?
No. Next one is solidify your values to drive AI integration in your life.
Yeah. So this one is really interesting because it's about highlighting neutrality and the need for values and morality. Write down your values and make sure you have those as a reference point while you're working with AI. Technology is not a good or bad thing. People always talk about being afraid of artificial intelligence, but it's not a good or bad thing. It's a technology. It's all about how the person who harnesses it. So it's really important that we maintain who we are as people in our values and the way that we think and the application.
Our oldest recently was talking to a couple of military recruiters, and they gave Dylan the example of one of their students in the military academy who was found to be plagiarizing using some of the AI tools, and he needed to sit down and look at the North Star and kind of get in touch with who he was and his ethics and his moral compass. Again, so it's really just going back to the basics with these kids.
And then being a parent of teenager, number 9 is technology abstinence is safety. We need all a period of time for to enhance for our children to detox from technology. That's got to be the mobile phones. It used to be the TV or the video game console. Today it's the phones, it's the artificial intelligence. Force your children to detox from technology. as well. Force them to focus on AI and be free thinkers when they're engaged, but also have them take a break. And when I talk about take a break, that's not take a break for 15 minutes, but actually have a period of time where they're not engaged. Easier said than done.
Much easier said than done. I remember when our children were little, I remember being out at a restaurant and seeing a family that had teenagers at a restaurant, and one of the teenagers had these big headphones on, was not engaged with the family. And I sat there and thought to myself, that would never, ever be our family. How could they spend this money to go out to eat and let this teenager who should be socializing be on these big headphones? Well, easier said than done. 3 kids later, you're exhausted. There's so much hitting us, all of this information to monitor. At first, it was how much TV and screen time. And then it was, okay, we're starting to let them tread into social media. And how much do we let them see or Snapchat their locations? Easier said than done to monitor everything. But really, as your kids get older, it's super important to do the detox. Make sure that there aren't devices at the dinner table when you're out to eat, when you're having a family game. Make sure that there's the family game nights, the poker sessions where you're electronic free. And we are super sensitive to this. There's pushback regularly, but pushback harder because it's going to be worth it in the end. Just like we feel the detox when we are electronic free, AI free, all of the things for a little bit, you can reset. And then back to the basics, the critical thinking, all of that comes out clearer, and you're just a stronger person for it.
Spoken like a great mother. Number 10, keeping your eyes on your own test. Focus on your path and be a leader and not a follower by the use of AI. Lead by an application, but not what's pushed to you. So it's going to be very easy for people to use AI to then say that's an absolute truth to your children. So it's very important that your children and the next generation actually questions what they consider as pushed absolute truth. So we're super excited as 2 parents, 3 wonderful kids, and we wanted to just share kind of our critical thinking on this, and that we're actually having these types of discussions in our home, and hopefully we can encourage you to also engage, not just about artificial intelligence, but engage with your children about the use and application of technology. We'd welcome you guys to follow up from this video recording and share your thoughts about your parenting and your questions regarding parenting and the future of artificial intelligence. We'd also welcome you at the Applied AI Association's next set of events. If you want to get in touch with me, my email is Brian, B-R-I-A-N, at AAIAglobal.com, and I'd welcome interfacing and engaging, and I'd really love to have people comment and provide feedback and also get into this conversation because we want to learn from you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.